My name is Brielle Carter. I'm 31 years old, and last Thursday, my brother invited me to his promotion party to destroy me. He told me it was important. He said he wanted his family there to celebrate a big step in his career. I believed him. I've always tried to believe him. So I drove 40 minutes into downtown Dallas, found parking, and walked into the polished lobby of a high-end hotel, feeling a little out of place but happy for him. I wore a simple navy dress, the nicest one I owned. I thought I looked professional. I thought it was enough. The moment I stepped into the ballroom, I knew I was wrong. The low hum of conversation didn't just dip. It stopped. It felt like 100 pairs of eyes turned to scan me, from my sensible heels to my simple pearl earrings. The room was filled with sharp suits and glittering cocktail dresses. I was a rowboat in a sea of yachts. My brother, Evan, stood near the bar, holding a glass of champagne, a perfect picture of corporate success. He saw me, and a slow, cruel smirk spread across his face. He walked over, his arm wrapping around my shoulder, not in a hug, but in a gesture of possession, of presentation. He led me toward a small group of older men in expensive suits. "Everyone," Evan announced, his voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I'd like you to meet my big sister, Brielle." He paused, letting the silence hang in the air for a moment. "She doesn't really do anything." The words hit me like a physical slap. And then came the laughter. It wasn't a polite chuckle. It was real, sharp, dismissive laughter from a table of executives who looked at me like I was a joke someone had just told. One of the men, a portly man with a gold watch that probably cost more than my car, was introduced as Evan's boss, Mr. Henderson. He looked me up and down, a dismissive glint in his eye. "Well, Evan, everyone needs a hobby," he chuckled, turning to me. "Don't worry, sweetheart. If things get tight, maybe we can find you a job stapling papers." More laughter. My cheeks burned hot, a wave of shame washing over me so intense it felt like I was drowning. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to run out of that room and never look back. But I was frozen, a smile plastered on my face while my insides twisted into a tight, painful knot. Evan just squeezed my shoulder, his grip feeling less like a brother's and more like a jailer's. "She's a free spirit," he added, as if that explained everything. I finally managed to pull away, mumbling something about getting a drink. I didn't go to the bar. I found a small, unoccupied table in the corner, a dark little spot where I hoped I could become invisible. I sat there, my hands clenched in my lap, trying to breathe. I told myself it didn't matter. This was Evan's night. He was nervous. He was showing off. It was just a stupid, thoughtless comment. But it wasn't just a comment. It was a pattern. My whole life, I had been the quiet one, the one in the background. Evan was the golden boy, the star athlete, the business prodigy. I was just Brielle, the one who was always figuring things out. Just when I thought I could fade into the wallpaper, I saw my parents making their way toward me. A small, foolish part of me hoped for comfort, for a kind word. I should have known better. My mother, Linda, arrived first, her smile tight and practiced. "Oh, there you are, honey," she said, her voice a stage whisper. "Don't mind Evan. You know how he is." She then turned to a woman standing beside her, a colleague's wife, I presumed. "This is our Brielle. She's the dreamer in the family. Always between jobs, you know. Never really sticks to anything." My father, Mac, just chuckled and patted my arm, a gesture that was meant to be kind but felt like a final nail in the coffin. He was agreeing with her. With them, I had a job. I had a career. A very demanding, very successful one. But it was remote, and the work I did was highly confidential, protected by non-disclosure agreements that were pages long. I never talked about it because, in the beginning, I tried. I'd mention a project, and their eyes would glaze over. Evan would make a joke about me playing on my computer all day. My mother would ask when I was going to get a real job with an office and a commute. It was easier to let them think I was drifting than to try and explain a world they had no interest in understanding. I built a wall of privacy around my professional life to protect it from their judgment, from their casual cruelty. Tonight, they had taken that privacy and turned it into a weapon to humiliate me with. They didn't see a private person, they saw a failure. and they were happy to put that failure on display for everyone to see. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, sipping a glass of water, the ice cubes clinking against the glass like a ticking clock. The main event was about to start. The lights dimmed slightly, and Mr. Henderson took a small stage at the front of the room, a microphone in his hand. He went on for a few minutes about quarterly earnings and market growth before introducing the man of the hour. Evan stepped onto the stage, beaming, his glass held high. He looked every bit the corporate golden boy they all believed him to be. He thanked his team, his mentors, and Mr. Henderson. He was charming. He was charismatic. And then, he looked out into the crowd, his eyes finding mine in my dark corner. And of course, he said, a familiar smirk returning to his lips, "It's so nice to have family here to support you." He paused, letting the room hang on his next words. Even if some don't exactly inspire us to work harder. The room erupted. It was the biggest laugh of the night. It crashed over me like a wave, suffocating me. Cameras flashed, capturing my face in that split second of perfect, public humiliation. I could feel the whispers, the sideways glances. I was the punchline. My own brother had turned my existence into the punchline of his success story. That's when something inside me snapped. The shame didn't disappear, but it crystallized into something else. Something cold, hard, and clear. I was done. Done being their joke. Done being their footnote. Done being invisible. I didn't storm out. I didn't cry. I swallowed my pride, smiled that same tight, fake smile, and when the applause for Evan died down, I quietly stood up. I smoothed down my dress, picked up my purse, and walked toward the exit with my head held high, ignoring the curious stares. I didn't look at my parents. I didn't look at my brother. I just walked. The cool night air of the parking garage was a relief. I got into my car, but I didn't start the engine. I just sat there in the silence, the echo of that laughter still ringing in my ears. For a moment, my body trembled, a tremor of pure, unadulterated rage. But my hands weren't shaking from shame anymore. They were steady, cold. I had made a decision in the time it took to walk from that ballroom to my car. I pulled out my phone, my fingers moving quickly across the screen. I scrolled to a name saved under a simple initial, W. I pressed the call button. It rang twice. "Wright," a calm, powerful voice answered. "Mr. Wright, it's Brielle Carter," I said, my own voice even and low. "I apologize for calling so late." "Brielle, not at all. Is everything all right? I was just reviewing the final transition documents. Your team did incredible work." "Everything is fine, thank you," I said. "I just happened to be in the area of the Gilded Hotel downtown. I heard your company was having an event tonight." There was a brief pause on the other end. "We are," he said, his voice now laced with curiosity. "Celebrating some of our Dallas team's recent successes." "I know," I said. "I was hoping I might be able to drop in for a moment. There's someone I'd like you to introduce me to." "Absolutely," he said, without a moment's hesitation. "We were just talking about you. I'll meet you at the entrance." I hung up, and in the silence of my car, I let myself remember the truth. The truth they didn't know. The truth they had never bothered to ask about. 3 years ago, I didn't just leave a corporate job. I was headhunted out of it after a niche tech startup I co-founded was acquired by a major firm for $18 million. I took my share and disappeared from that world, not because I failed, but because I was tired of it. I used the capital to build a boutique business consultancy from the ground up, Carter Strategic Solutions. We don't have a flashy office downtown. We don't issue press releases. We specialize in quiet, aggressive executive turnarounds for companies on the brink of collapse. Confidentiality is my brand. My clients are CEOs and boards of directors, not the general public. For the past 6 months, my team and I had been working tirelessly on our biggest project yet. The strategic overhaul of a mid-sized tech firm that had been bleeding money and was weeks from bankruptcy. A firm called Cinova Tech, Evan's company. Our final move, just last week, had been to facilitate a quiet acquisition. A new holding company, funded by my firm, had just purchased a 49% stake in Cinova Tech, making us the new majority shareholder. All the contracts had been signed. The deal was done. My involvement had been completely anonymous, listed under the name of the holding company. Until now. I got out of my car and walked back toward the hotel entrance. This time, I didn't feel small or out of place. I felt like I owned the ground I was walking on. Just as he promised, Mr. Wright, the CEO of Tech, was waiting for me just inside the lobby doors. With him were two other men I recognized from the board of directors. Brielle, Mr. Wright said, his face breaking into a warm, respectful smile. It is an honor to finally meet you in person. The pleasure is all mine, I replied, shaking his hand. He gestured toward the ballroom. Shall we? This time, when I entered the room, the doors were held open for me. I didn't walk in alone. I was escorted by the three most powerful men in the company. The effect was immediate. The conversations didn't just dip, they died. Evan was still basking in the glow of his speech, laughing with Mr. Henderson. He looked up, annoyed by the sudden silence, and his eyes fell on me. Evan's smirk didn't just vanish, it shattered. His face went slack with confusion, his eyes darting from me to the CEO and back again. His boss, Mr. Henderson, literally choked on his champagne, sputtering into his napkin. Across the room, I saw my mother's hand fly to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. My father just looked pale, utterly lost. Mr. Wright led me toward the stage, and without a word, he took the microphone from the stand. The silence in the room was absolute, a vacuum of confusion and shock. Everyone, your attention, please, Mr. Wright said, his voice booming through the speakers. Before we continue the celebration, I'd like to introduce someone very important to the future of this company. He turned and gestured directly to me. Please join me in welcoming Brielle Carter. He paused, letting my name sink in. Then he delivered the final blow. Our newest majority shareholder and the architect of the turnaround that saved this company. If the room was silent before, it was now a tomb. You could have heard a pin drop on the thick carpet. Then, a wave of frantic whispers erupted. Phones were coming out, not for party pictures, but for frantic searching of my name, of my company. I saw the blood drain from Evan's face. He looked like he'd swallowed glass. I let the moment hang in the air, a perfect, exquisite silence. Then, I stepped off the stage and walked directly to the little group that had been the source of my pain. I stopped in front of my brother. He couldn't meet my eyes. I leaned in and spoke in a calm, quiet voice, for only him to hear. You're lucky you're good at your job, Evan. Ownership changes can shift priorities. His boss, Henderson, finally found his voice. Ms. Carter, I had no idea. What Evan said, what I said, it was just a joke. He started to stammer out an apology, his face slick with sweat. I didn't even look at him. I just turned my back on his pathetic excuses and faced Mr. Wright, a polite smile on my face. So, I said, my voice carrying easily in the silent room, about those third-quarter projections. The cameras were still flashing, but they weren't pointed at Evan anymore. This time, I was the headline. The aftermath was quiet, just as I designed it to be. I didn't fire Evan. That would have been too loud, too dramatic. It would have made it about family, about emotion. This was business. I let him keep his job, his new promotion. But his file was flagged, and he was placed on a mandatory 6-month performance review probation. He now reports to a new director, one of my people. He is being watched. Henderson was gone within 2 weeks. It was listed as a voluntary resignation to pursue other opportunities. We all knew what it was. He was replaced by a woman from my own firm, someone far more competent and far less inclined to make jokes about people's careers. My parents, they called me the next day, and the day after that. Their voices were strained, full of a new, awkward respect they didn't know what to do with. My mother asked about my work, her questions clumsy and hollow. My father just kept saying how proud he was. They haven't tried to make a joke about my career since. Our relationship isn't fixed. I don't think it ever will be. But it is, for the first time, honest. They know who I am now. That night, after I had returned home and washed the entire evening off my skin, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Evan. It was just 4 words. Asterisk, why didn't you tell me? Asterisk. I looked at the message for a long time. The little grey bubble containing a lifetime of condescension and willful ignorance. Then I typed my reply, my fingers steady and sure. Asterisk because you wouldn't have listened. But you'll remember now. Every time you sign my checks. Asterisk. I sent the message and turned my phone off. And for the first time in a very long time, I slept soundly.